What's up, everyone? Today I'm here with my friend Sunjeev from Street Gentleman Men's Image Consulting, and today we're going to tell you guys exactly how to dress as real estate agents to get the best first impression. Alright everyone, what's up? Welcome back again to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as mentioned in the introduction, I've got my good friend here, Sunjeev from Street Gentleman. Go check him out on Instagram, who's a men's image consultant. And we're going to talk to you guys today about how to dress as a real estate agent to make the best first impression and to have the utmost confidence in your business to make sure that you're getting the maximum results as an agent. So again, Sunjeev, welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me here, Mike.
Awesome, man. So yeah, as you mentioned, guys, Sunjeev, you can see he's dressed very, very well dressed, and we're going to talk about, some tips and tricks for you guys on how to dress and accessorize to get the best first, impression, because, maybe you want to talk about that first, Sunjeev, is, what a first impression means, because that can make or break us at some points, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think, we only have 7 seconds to make that first impression count. And once that's established, it's pretty hard to recover from that or to reestablish it, recondition people. So
definitely,
especially like in an industry that's so professional, like a real estate, and you're making these large transactions that are life changing for a lot of people. They need to know that who they're working with, who's representing them, they can trust, and will conduct themselves in a professional manner as well.
Certainly. So, before we get into the tips and tricks, why don't we talk about what dressing appropriately can do for you? Because as I kind of talked off camera a bit, is that it goes a bit layers deeper, it goes down to your confidence and things like that. So why don't you talk about, some of the theory and the practical aspect about, what dressing can do for you?
Okay. Yeah. I would actually take this morning as a perfect example. When I woke up this morning and after I hopped out of the shower, I threw on an Adidas tracksuit, so super comfy, right? It's perfect for chilling in the morning and just getting going. But while I was wearing that, I was feeling a little bit sluggish, right? And not feeling super driven or just ready to tackle the day, basically. And then as soon as I changed into this outfit, I felt ready to go. It was like another day to execute, and it completely changed my my demeanor altogether, just changing from that one like casual wear look into something more professional and just feeling like I could go out there and close some deals or whatever it is, have a conversation with basically any single person in the world. When you look your best, it does make a huge difference whether we realize it or not.
Certainly. And then, as we, again, you and I kind of talked about, Annie Frisella on the MFCEO podcast put out a video the other day talking about how you feel when you dress can also impact your business in the sense of the confidence that it instills, and also the fact that you put a level of detail difference in when you're getting dressed like this, down to the accessories, to the hair, or to whatever you do for grooming and things like that. It affects not just your appearance, but affects how you carry out your business and your conversations and the overall quality of your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a study out there. I believe it was in New York. It was one of the universities out in New York. It's called Enclothed Cognition.
Okay.
And it basically talks about how we present ourselves can actually change our behavior as well. And they had 3 different tests that they ran. And within those, they were basically testing for how close people were paying attention to detail. And so one of the tests that I remember specifically was, so they took a white lab coat and they assigned it to 2 different groups. And they told one group it was a doctor's lab coat, and they told the other group that it was a painter's smock, I believe is the term they used. And what they noticed as a result of that test, that the group that had the doctor's lab coat actually performed better on tests, like specifically focusing on attention to detail and execution. The one that had the painter's smock, they actually noticed that there was a slight variation in how well they performed. So
that's cool.
Yeah, and it was just the exact same lab coat, but they just assigned it 2 different labels, and it made that much of a difference for these students. So
certainly, that's amazing, man. So yeah, let's jump into what to wear. Because again, for me, similar to what you alluded to with your tracksuit and things like that. When I first got into real estate, I was all in, fully suited, everything, and then it kind of drifted off, and I started wearing kind of casual stuff and things like that. But I didn't feel that confident, and I was kind of just going through the motions, and I felt like, you know, my Instagram profile looked great, everything looked professional, but when I carried myself out through the daily life, it wasn't perceived that way. I just, whereas I find if someone's suited up like that, when they walk into a coffee shop or when they're out and about, there's a different air about them, there's a different vibe, and people think there's something going on with them. People think that they must be a person of status. I've even noticed this with some of my photo shoots, that when I'm suited up and I'm going out for a photo shoot, I have a lot of people interrupt the photo shoot and ask, what do I do for a living? Because people are so curious, right?
Yeah. Totally, it makes a huge difference, and I think it actually does totally influence the way people will treat you, whether they realize it or not. And as much as we're taught not to judge a book by its cover, that's unfortunately how our world operates. It's a survival mechanism at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
We assess someone's image, demeanor within a couple of seconds, and it comes back to basically caveman days, when we're hardwired to think, okay, like if we hear something in the bush, right, are we going to be in trouble? Are we going to be, basically the question we ask ourselves, is this going to help us or is it going to harm us?
Yes.
Is what it comes down to. And it's a survival mechanism that's been hardwired in us for centuries.
Certainly.
So that's where style comes into play. You basically want to give yourself the best possible chance to win people over instantly. And that reminds me of Josh Altman's book that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
One of the chapters in there, he mentioned talking about, it's basically like a uniform. He was a football player back in university, and he remember you're getting suited up to go to the game, whether it be hockey, football, baseball, whatever you're playing, right? You put on your gear and you're getting pumped up, you're ready to go to the game. It's the exact same thing when it comes to work, right? You're putting on your suit, you're putting on, maybe it's a polo, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is specifically for the audience that you're trying to attract and win over.
Certainly.
Dress accordingly, because it actually does make, you're going to operate differently. And I think it really does come down to, it's your game, getting in the zone.
Certainly. I like that you said, dress accordingly, because here's something that I'd like for you and I to touch on is that dressing accordingly, it doesn't mean that we always have to be suit and tie and full tux, 3-piece, the whole 9 yards, right? Because maybe we can get into that of how to dress for different demographics or different lines of industry or anything like that. Because what I realize is, for me, I don't really like wearing the button up with the full tie, but I love a suit with a button up or something like that. But then I also know friends that like to dress up slightly, but they're in sort of the blue collar industry. So dressing again for the occasion. So, what is your advice for people in terms of assessing how they should dress and what level of, formality that they should take into consideration to look appropriate for their job and their demographic, especially if you're an agent?
I think it does. It definitely comes down to we got to consider your lifestyle and who do you want to attract within that. And I'm not talking just in the dating sense of things, but who are your target clients, specifically in real estate, because there's so many variations of demographics you could be working with, right? With you have the luxury end of the market, and you also have more of maybe the first-time home buyers as well, right?
Certainly.
Completely different ends of the spectrum, and they're also. They basically, you'll approach them differently too, right? You won't walk up to a first-time home buyer maybe in a 3-piece suit and $1,000 shoes or something, but you might do that if you're selling a $1 or $2 million property somewhere. So keeping in mind who your audience is and allowing that to influence the way you dress is a huge part of it. And then also remember too that style is an extension of your personality.
Certainly. At
the end of the day, people can tell when you're uncomfortable, or if you're doing something, or if you're dressing in a certain way that isn't authentic with who you really are. It just shows up in our body language, right? It's just, you can tell when somebody's uncomfortable. They're maybe finicking with their style, or they may be a little bit stiff, whatever it might be. It's definitely reflected. It might be very subtle, but it is noticeable for sure.
Certainly. Well, there's 3 things that I'd like to touch on. One is the difference it can make in terms of the cut and the finish. 2 is accessorizing, and then 3 is any trends you see for people, and also just how to dress on the daily, because I know, I've seen even some of your fits where you look amazing when you're dressed up in a suit like you are now.
Thank you.
But also you can rock a hoodie in a fashionable way and still make it look like formal and like it's got some swagger to it. So, first things first, let's talk about the difference a cut can make, because, people don't have to go out and get $1,000 suits. They can get something from Indochino or something like that is fitted. But what difference does that make? Because I know a lot of agents will just go to, some off-the-shelf type place, and then they end up looking like a box, and they have the right intention,
Right.
but it doesn't get executed properly.
Right, yeah, you nailed it right there. The intention is there, but I think it's a lack of awareness of how it should properly fit. And I've even made that mistake in the past where I've listened to the salesperson at this store and they didn't really know what they were talking about. So at the end of the day, it comes down to it needs to contour your body in a way that's snug, but it's still comfortable. You want it to be able to fit properly, highlight your assets, maybe downplay some of your less flattering zones if you have any. But it also needs to be comfortable, right? You need to be able to, if you're wearing this for 8, 10 hours, 12 hours in a day.
Getting in and out of cars, things like that, driving, seat belts, like...
Yeah. Like having a top coat on top of it and
certainly.
Yeah, in and out, like you said. And the weather, too, is a big factor as well. But in terms of cut and fit, it's huge, especially if you're already putting in a lot of time in the gym. You might as well show it off a little bit, too, if you're, if you're going to get dressed up, right? And maybe not show it off in a flashy way, but at least highlight your assets in a way that your suit should fit properly and should be tailored.
Certainly, no, I completely agree in the sense that I went from getting an off the cuff Moore suit where it just looked like a box, and then I got my first custom made to measure suit, and just the contour and the difference it made, it just made you feel that much more confident. So again, it was levels to the confidence where you felt good in a suit, but you felt amazing and confident, like you were the king of the room when you had something that looked a cut above the rest. So let's touch quickly on accessories, because that's something that from the people have lapel pins or they have the cufflinks and things like that. What do you recommend for people that are looking to maybe dress it up a little bit, from pocket squares? Like what do you recommend people to start with, or any fashion tips and trends that you see right now in 2019? I
would say definitely keep it simple but significant. Don't over accessorize. There's a lot of guys out there who are doing it super busy and have everything from the pocket squares to the tie bars to lapel pins and multiple bracelets and everything. It can get really busy, so I would say be more intentional with your accessories. In terms of trends, what I'm seeing, we're definitely seeing more options when it comes to everything from pocket squares to tie bars. More so on the, I guess, overall apparel side of things. One big trend I'm seeing right now is pinstripe suits are coming back.
Okay. A
lot of the guys in New York and London who are definitely the leaders in fashion, at least in the Western world, are wearing a lot of pinstripe suits. So that's a big trend I've been seeing a lot. The tail end of last year and the early part of this year as well. Okay,
awesome. That's cool, man. And then, before we wrap up, the last thing I want to talk about is what to do in your casual days. Because, as we kind of talked about, when it's Monday to Friday and you're going to business meetings and presentations and things like that, it does pay dues to, get fully dressed up, but sometimes you want to dial it back, but still make sure that if someone saw you at a coffee shop and earlier that week they saw you dressed up, they wouldn't say, like, what happened, right? Like, what, are you homeless now, or what's the deal? How do you dress still professionally, but if you want to, throw a hoodie on, or what do you do that way when you want to feel casual but still look the part?
I would definitely keep your personal brand in mind as well. That's a huge part of our style. It's an extension of all of that. So if you're okay with rocking crew neck sweater with maybe your favorite sports team on it, favorite NHL, NFL, whoever it is, team on it, and people know that you're already a fan, like, I think that's a great way to sort of express your style and your personality in a casual way. But at the end of the day, you want to keep in mind that, like you said, you could run into anyone, anywhere, at any time. Coffee shops, grocery stores, wherever it is. And then there's also that chance that when they do see you on the weekends or the evenings, and you're all suited up at work, and then they see you super casual, there's a possibility that they might perceive you as like, okay, like, who's the real version of this person? Like, who am I dealing with at the office? Is that the real individual,
or is it a show?
Yeah, exactly. Is that just a front to take advantage of me? So keep that in mind as well. But at the end of the day, if you're going casual, definitely keep it clean, keep it simple, make sure it's well fitted as well. Athleisure, especially, has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years, just making more tailored options. And then also make sure it's not too, make sure it's in good shape. Too, right? I think there's a common habit a lot of men or people fall into is letting their casual wear just sort of
go on for ages.
Like get a little bit disheveled, right? And it's easy to do when it's not your top priority. So
I like that, because there is subliminal messages with things like that where consistency, I made a video before this about consistency is king, and the fact that it's not consistency in action, it's also consistency in how you're perceived and the impressions you make and things like that. So similar to you alluded to is if you're consistent in terms of, you know, quality of work, and then you're not representing that by your own personal image, people can get, you know, discerning and saying, you know, who am I dealing with? Who's the right person? You know, where's the disconnect there, and what am I not seeing behind the scenes? So
yeah,
I really like that you said that, man. So again, you know, we're gonna wrap up here. Any last words that you recommend to people for, you know, whether they want to, you know, spruce up their look this year or anything like that?
I would definitely mention fit, no matter what, is the most important thing when it comes to style and your personal image. In addition to that, don't get too caught up in trends. They're changing it seems like every couple months now. That's a big thing. Focus more on timeless style, classic pieces like your navy, gray suits, white button-ups. All these things will always be relevant. And then sprinkle in the trendy pieces every now and then if you like. But definitely focus more on a timeless approach to your style. And keep it as simple as possible. It's going to make your life a lot easier, especially if you're super busy like Mike is and everyone else who's watching. There's a lot going on in our lives, and if it's one less thing to think about, you can make better decisions throughout the day.
Definitely, man. Well, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Kind of just to recap what we talked about is the fact that, you know, keep things simple, dress to impress your audience and understand your audience before making the prejudgments for that. Make sure there's consistency in your outfit so that people, regardless of when and where they see you, that they know that they're still going to have the same trust they would otherwise. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to link all of Sunjeev's stuff below, his Instagram, his Facebook, and his YouTube channel, so you can stay up to the date on the latest men's image fashion trends. Comment below if you guys have any questions about what to wear, where to get certain clothes, any certain brands to look out for. Sunjeev will be in the comments. He'll be answering any questions that you guys do have. Please make sure you smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next time.